We just swam with stingrays. Now we're sitting on a secluded beach. It was the perfect honeymoon on the shores of the Cayman Islands.
You're listening to Travel FOMO, a podcast for people self-diagnosed with Wanderlust.
You're listening to Season 4 of the Travel FOMO podcast. This is Jamin Houghton, and I'm here with my co-host and wife, Hilarie.
Hello.
And today we're talking about the Cayman Islands.
We love the Cayman Islands.
Yeah, so much fun.
Best beaches we've been to so far, huh?
Yeah, still my favorite beaches were there.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. It was part of our honeymoon.
Yes.
Which was lovely. We had gotten married on a Carnival cruise line. We were married in Jamaica. You can hear about that in the last episode.
Yep.
On Montego, or in Montego Bay, Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
And then we hit up Grand Cayman, which we'll talk about in this episode. And then next episode, we'll wrap it all up with Cozumel.
That's right.
Yeah. So we really liked being able to go on a cruise because you can hit up multiple countries and then you never have to like stay in a different hotel or anything. You just get the same room every night. It's nice.
And we went out of Galveston, which meant like 2 days at sea before, and then Montego Bay one day, Grand Cayman the next day, then Cozumel the next day, and then 2 days at sea back. And if I had to do it over again, I would go to Florida to get more stops in and like mix in Key West or do so that there's more stops.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely think cruising is a great way to see a bunch of places and always come back to consistent food, consistent service, consistent room. A great way to kind of square all those things away, especially if you're kind of new to travel and new to international travel, which I was. This was my first international trip. A great way to do that without also having to add on okay, let's make it to the flight or train station or like all the logistics.
Yes. Yeah. And you know, the other thing, you mentioned Florida and people who, kind of leave from Florida on a cruise. That's also another great idea because the weather's already pretty good in Florida.
Right. Yeah.
So you kind of know that like, not always, but you kind of maybe have a better chance of having great weather while you're at sea, which matters, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a little bit pretty where you're going from. Like Galveston's not all that pretty, unfortunately. But,
it is beachy, but.
But the marina there and like leaving out of there, not the greatest of views, but I have a feeling Florida would be a little bit better for that. But it's still pretty cool, and like showing up in Grand Cayman was awesome. It was like super charming,
so cute, all those colorful buildings and
like just picture perfect, like everything that you really want it to be, and super easy to get around. Gorgeous beaches with the water there, just amazing.
And we loved the water. You had, in the last episode, you were talking about the waters in Jamaica just being so crystal clear. I mean, we were even more shocked when we got to Grand Cayman because they were even better.
Yeah, it was. Like, it really blew me away how pretty it was. And like you said, all the colorful homes and businesses, like everything just looked great. Felt very safe. Everything there was very, very approachable. Sort of a contrast to Jamaica. Not that I ever felt not safe in Jamaica, but you could see how some people have no other option than to live like in a shack.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And so you see like, whoa, there's a lot of stuff that I'm not used to.
A lot of desperation.
Right.
Which can lead to desperate actions sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's stuff that you're like, man, like there's a lot of people that have to do without. But in Grand Cayman, like everything felt really nice and everything felt polished and just this incredible beach getaway. And there's a lot of money there. There are tax laws and things like that make it a great place if you have millions and millions of dollars to go hang out. So Maybe one day.
Tell them how, like, we came back and we were like, yeah, we want to live in Grand Cayman.
Oh yeah, I 100%. I was like, I have to find a way to live in Grand Cayman, and so I'll save you a little bit of deep dive research into it. You have to be independently wealthy, where you can prove that you don't have to work. So that was not an option for us. And the other is that you have to have a skill that someone native to the island can't perform.
Oh, interesting.
So you can't go there and be like a store clerk or I'd worked on a golf course for a long, long time, and I was like, well, they've got great golf courses down there. Maybe I'll just go like work on a golf course.
Yeah.
And you can't have a job like that. It has to be a skill. So you have to be like a doctor or some kind of skill that a normal person can't easily learn to perform the job. So that's why we don't live there now.
That's why.
But still a great place to go. Like,
Yeah.
Beautiful place. And just incredible from start to finish.
Yeah, and we went on an excursion,
Yes.
which was the big highlight for us. We hadn't done, so we'd never done a cruise.
Right.
This was only our second stop, and we'd never done an excursion, and so we didn't really know what to think about it. I personally didn't know would it be better to spend our time how we want, or is it better to like get on a bus, and go with people on this excursion. We opted for the excursion. We literally did get on a bus.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember how long that bus ride was?
I don't feel like it was too long. Wasn't it like 30 minutes or something?
Yeah, it was long enough. Like you
were ready to be off the bus by the time you got there, but yeah.
And they took us to a boat, and we got to go out to this sandbar in the middle of the ocean with some stingrays, which was really fun to swim with the stingrays. Yeah. You always hear about that. And I was a little nervous because, death. But it was like not a big deal. And they were everywhere. So this was back in the day, so 13 years ago, back in the day when, there weren't GoPros that you were like taking underwater all the time. You literally had to purchase an old school waterproof disposable camera.
Disposable cameras.
Yeah.
That's
right. We were there, guys. We saw that. That was, yeah. So we have some photos of some of the stingrays underwater with photos we took with our disposable camera.
Disposable camera.
We didn't even know what those pictures looked like.
I know, and you kept disposing of the cameras for a long time before you realized you have to go take them and get them developed.
I just kept throwing them away. Oh, man. But yeah, we loved that excursion. They took us to a beach, right?
Yeah. So the first stop was to swim with the stingrays and then onto a beach. And I will say, like, I was kind of like you. Like, we were having that debate of, like, do we spend the money on the excursion? One, because of the cost.
True.
Or do we just go kind of do our own thing? And then two, because of the time. Because that is the downfall of cruising, is like you pull into a port and you're like, okay, you have from this time to this time, and then you have to be back on the ship because we're headed out to the next place. So you don't have that freedom of time to go like, I'm really having fun, I'm going to stay a little longer.
Right.
And so...
And you don't have the freedom of not caring. You have to care. You have to get on that bus or whatever it is.
Yeah. You've got to make that happen. And so the excursion also takes like a big chunk of time. Mm-hmm. And you're like, man, this is going to eat up a lot of our time here. But I'm really glad we did it, because swimming with stingrays was a lot of fun. But then they took us to Rum Point, and we kind of had this beach to ourselves.
Yeah.
And there wasn't that many people on our little boat that was on this particular excursion. And so,
well, let's say how many. What do you think? Like 10?
Yeah, 10 or 15.
Yeah.
And so we get there. They've got like a beach bar and little restaurant where we had lunch. Had some great sandwiches and fries and stuff, and some some beach drinks.
It was so lovely.
Yeah, but then we got to like everybody sort of spread out and went their own way on this just amazing beach. And I mean, the water was so clear and the sand was so soft and white, and it was in this sort of bay, so there wasn't like big waves or anything. The water was pretty still, and it didn't get deep very fast. So you go way out into the water and it was still only 2 or 3 feet deep, which was really cool. I'd never seen or experienced anything like that before.
Yeah, it was just really beautiful. And I cannot emphasize how much the privacy was really nice. It being a private beach was just a game changer. It just felt really, really relaxing. Being on our honeymoon, it felt like nice to like get away from these crowds that we'd had on the cruise ship.
Right, such a contrast to the cruise ship where there's people everywhere all the time.
Yeah, and it was honestly not what I expected from an excursion where you're getting on a bus with people, you're getting on a boat with people, you're like swimming on this, swimming in the sandbar with stingrays with people.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it kind of just felt like they just dropped us off and we were alone. It was really great.
Yeah, it really was. Like, I loved that part about it. It was that sort of 2 experiences because you were on the bus with everybody, in the boat with everybody. And the only redeeming thing about situations like that is, well, I guess 2 redeeming things. Every once in a while, you do meet other people that are a lot of fun on stuff like that, and you
That's
get
true.
to hang out.
Yeah.
But then I feel like I can always pick out a couple people on an excursion that I'm like, if stuff gets like really bad, they'll probably go first, and there's like a little bit of buffer zone. So if a shark shows up, like I'm pretty sure like I'll get away before one of them gets away.
Oh my gosh.
So it always feels a little bit safer. Just for that factor alone.
I thought you were going to say, like, they'd be the ones to, like, be the first to, like, cannibalize, or whatever. I'm like, oh, my gosh.
Well, it's a numbers game. I mean, if they're, like, if there's only 2 of us, like, and something bad happens, it happens to one of us. But if there's 10 of us, like, that's only a 10% chance. Is there something you know about that revolutionizes the way you travel? Can it solve problems and help people around the roadblocks on their adventures? Is it just plain cool? If you have a product like that, we'd love to tell people about it. Get in contact with us, and maybe next time we'll be talking about your product right now.
What else did we do? I feel like we might have gone shopping.
Yeah, like we walked around and shopped. I remember
once we came back, like we got back on the boat and then the bus, and we still had a little bit of time to shop.
Yeah, and there was a lot of shops and stuff like that right there so we tendered in and to and from the boat. So in Montego Bay and then subsequently in Cozumel, we docked, and so there's a big ramp. But in Grand Cayman, we had to tender. So there's small boats that take you to and from the cruise ship. And we did that, and where they drop you off in port, there are a bunch of shops. I remember we got some rum cake. That was really, really good there. And I've always, I've chased that rum cake since that point. It was like a buttery, rum-flavored cake. And I've tried 1,000 other cakes that I thought would replicate that, and nothing ever has. So I don't know.
Couldn't do it.
I think I could probably even go back and have the exact same cake now, and it wouldn't be as good as it was that day. But yeah, I remember doing that and walking around and shopping, and it was a really great day. And then getting back on the little tender and back out to the ship.
Yep. Man, it was like so picture perfect. We have this photo of you, and maybe of both of us. We might have one of both of us too, where we're like in front of, we're right at the dock. You can see our cruise ship, but it's out at sea, right? Because you were saying we had to tender in on these boats, so our cruise ship is a little further away, but you can see the full size of it back behind, on the sea, and it literally looks like a fake backdrop. It just doesn't look like real.
I will say, when I think about When I think about our honeymoon, of course, like Montego Bay, I think about our wedding because we had our wedding there on the beach. But when I think about our honeymoon, like Grand Cayman is really what I think of, like that day, and especially like Rum Point being on that beach.
Yeah, I loved it. We literally did talk about how do we move, and we started Googling, like, how do we move to Grand Cayman?
Yeah, I really tried to figure out a way. And so now I'm just saving to become independently wealthy.
Exactly. So if anybody wants to sponsor this episode, you can totally do that. So it was truly that location was like the best part of the honeymoon. And I'm sure a lot of the people listening, you guys I'm sure there are some married couples out there or people considering getting married. And if you did, where did you go for your honeymoon? Because that is so interesting because honeymoons equal travel. And so like you could talk about honeymoons and you can talk about travel simultaneously. And I love that. I would love to hear where people have been, where they want to go. You guys can reach out to us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know your stories. And honeymoons are one of those things that people like really kind of let themselves go all out for. So I would be really interested. So hit us up on social media. That's also where we will post photos from our honeymoon. So we'll throw up some of those cool underwater photos from the disposable camera, and then so we'll share those with everybody. And you can also learn more about us at travelfomopodcast.com.
That's right. And as always, we would really love for you guys to rate, review, subscribe. You can find the Travel FOMO podcast from wherever you're listening, and it does help people like yourself find this podcast. Whenever you subscribe and rate and review, it all those analytics, it pushes us up towards the top. So it really helps. Don't forget, guys, life is short.
Wonder well.